Welcome to Star Secrets by Brooke, where fame gets real. Secrets, all with a touch of elegance. Hit subscribe and step inside the world they don't want you to see.
Elon Musk was betrayed, but not by just any enemy. He was betrayed by Donald Trump himself. And the scariest thing isn't the betrayal. It's what comes next. Because when a U.S. president decides to declare war on one of the most powerful men on the planet, the world trembles. What caused this brutal break between two titans? What happened behind the scenes that turned a relationship of mutual respect into a nightmare of egos, power, and revenge? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear goes far beyond a simple political drama. It is a story of ambition, manipulation, and chaos. And no one, not even Elon Musk, saw what Trump was planning coming. Since taking office, Trump has governed as if the country were one of his failing ventures: chaos, impulsive decisions, broken promises. But what he did in his first 100 days left the world speechless, and his latest move has set off alarm bells. He betrayed his own ally, Elon Musk, the same Musk who once sat in the White House as one of its most influential advisors. The same Musk who became the technological mastermind behind some of the presidential cabinet's most talked about decisions. But now Trump has cut it off. Cold, public, violent. But why? Some say it was a matter of power, others that it was pure envy. Because Musk shines too brightly, and Trump can't stand sharing the spotlight with anyone, especially not someone who has conquered space while he's still battling his ego. The first sign of war came quietly. A post on Truth Society. Trump, in his typical style, delivered a cryptic message. Everyone in the cabinet is happy with you. But it wasn't a compliment, it was a warning. A message in disguise, like when someone smiles at you while stabbing you in the back with a knife. He, for his part, remained silent, at least for a moment, because the bomb exploded soon after. Musk, in an earnings call, announced that he would no longer actively participate in the Trump administration, which would focus on his companies. Coincidence? Or was on the run before it was completely destroyed? And just when we thought the drama was over, Trump doubled down. In one of the most ridiculous and spectacular moves we've ever seen, he began openly criticizing Musk, calling him disloyal, accusing him of betrayal. And worst of all, he did it in front of cameras, knowing the world was watching. Was all this planned? Was it a chess move? Or just another presidential tantrum? We don't know. But what we do know is that this fight between giants has real consequences. Because behind the headlines are policies, decisions that affect millions. And the most chilling thing is that this war of egos is directly affecting the economy, the market, and even national security. But there is something that very few dare to say. This isn't the first time Trump has destroyed someone who helped him rise. And if you don't believe me, think about how many of his former advisors now hate him. Think about how many of his former allies have ended up betrayed, humiliated, or in prison. Do you think Musk will be different? Let me ask you something. How far would you be willing to go for power? What would you be willing to sacrifice? What if the price was betraying the one who helped you reach the top? Trump is not new to this. From the beginning, his presidency was a battlefield, and his first 100 days were a roller coaster of chaos. From his immigration policies that sparked nationwide protests to his clashes with the press, judges, and even his own allies. Nothing was normal, nothing was calm, and yet no one expected him to face Elon Musk. Why him? Why now? Some analysts believe it all started when Musk started to express his opinions too much. He spoke about freedom of expression, criticized some of the president's decisions, and Trump finds that unacceptable. You can't be on their team and think differently. You either love it or it destroys you. Others say it was because of tariffs. The Trump administration insisted on continuing its trade war despite warnings from experts. Despite the negative impact on the economy, Musk, whose Tesla company depends on international markets, began to feel the pressure. The stocks fell. Investors freaked out, and Musk started asking awkward questions. That was enough to arouse the president's fury, and then everything collapsed. Who will win this war? Can it more than survive Trump's fury? Or will he be just another victim in the long list of those betrayed by the former president? The truth is that nothing will ever be the same again. What began as an unlikely alliance has become a minefield of threats, cross-statements, and public betrayals. And we don't fully know the truth yet, but in the next few minutes you'll discover every detail, every move, every secret, because this story is just beginning, and what's coming is even wilder. Hit like if you are already wondering what else happened between these two, and comment which side you re on. Elon or Trump, but Musk didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming. A relationship that seemed unbreakable, an alliance of power and colossal egos, suddenly collapsed like a house of cards in the middle of a hurricane. Because when Trump feels someone else is stealing his spotlight, there's no negotiation possible, just revenge. Elon Musk, the golden boy of Silicon Valley, the genius behind rockets, electric cars, and impossible ideas, was brutally betrayed, not by a political rival, not by a Russian hacker, but by someone he had considered an ally. And if you're wondering why, the answer is as simple as it is devastating. Trump's ego doesn't allow for competition. It all started as a small, almost imperceptible friction. Musk, with his classic tireless rebel attitude, launched ironic tweets, veiled criticisms, and uncomfortable proposals. And meanwhile, Trump simply couldn't stand it, because for Trump, if you don't talk about him, you re against him. And Elon Musk, with his obsession with freedom of expression and his fascination with provoking the system, became a threat. The problem was that this threat had millions of followers and a global platform. So Trump did what he does best. He attacked. It wasn't straightforward at first. The restless liar first unleashed one of his war dogs. Trade advisor Peter Navarro went on television to publicly disparage Elon Musk. He said it wasn't even a real car manufacturer, just assembling parts imported from China, Japan, and Taiwan. A low and clear blow, Musk responded as only he knows how, with sarcasm, elegant contempt, and selective silence. But that was just the first shot. The worst was yet to come. Because when Trump attacks, he doesn't do it once. He does it until the ground crumbles beneath your feet. The tension slowly built, like a ticking time bomb that everyone could see, but no one dared to touch. Every time Musk talked about the global economy, free trade, and eliminating tariffs, Trump saw it as a direct threat, and the moment came that changed everything. Trump, without warning, did what seemed unthinkable. He ignored Musk as if he had never existed, as if he had never been part of his circle. It was a public, cold, calculated "I don't know him." He denied it to the world, and he did so knowing full well what it meant. Because in politics, these kinds of denials are not mistakes, they are executions. Imagine having been in private meetings with the president, sharing ideas, plans, and visions for the country, and suddenly seeing him erase you from history with a single sentence. But Musk did not react with fury. He did not make a fuss. Anent did something worse. Ignored him! And that silence was deafening, because when someone like Elon Musk decides not to respond to the most public attack from the U.S. president, the message is clear. I don't respect you anymore. You're not worth my time anymore. And what did Trump do then? Exactly. He lost control. He began to indirectly ridicule Musk, mocking his stock market decline and his business failures. Because yes! During Trump's first 100 days in office, Elon Musk was losing $1 billion, 0 cents a day, $1 billion, And while Musk watched Tesla's stock plummet like a sandcastle in a rising tide, Trump celebrated imaginary crowds at his inauguration. The contrast was grotesque. One was building rockets, the other was tweeting about ratings. But the hardest blow didn't come from the market. It came from the public. Because when the economy began to falter, when Trump's tariffs began to hit ordinary people's pockets, electric cars became an unnecessary luxury. Nobody wanted a Tesla when their retirement fund looked like an empty account. And Musk, the visionary and futurist, suddenly became a symbol of the inaccessible. But here comes the unexpected twist, because while all this was happening, while the stock market was shaking and the relationship with Trump was silently rotting, Musk kept moving forward, kept dreaming of Mars, kept selling cars, kept inventing, because if Elon Musk has proven anything, it's that he doesn't need anyone's approval to change the world. Of course, the scars were there, and the public noticed. The questions began to multiply. Is everything falling apart for Trump? And what about Musk? Will it fall again, or is it just gaining momentum? The press was quick to smell blood. Explosive headlines, rumors of failed meetings, business tensions. Some said Musk was planning to go full-time into politics. Others that he was considering leaving it all and returning to building cars himself. Literally. And he said it in his own words. Maybe I should go back to the car company because they need me. But everyone knew it wasn't just that. They knew that behind that phrase lay a harsher truth. Musk felt betrayed not because Trump no longer supported him, but because he understood something deeper. He never really supported it. For Trump, alliances don't exist, only profits. And when Musk stopped being useful, he stopped being welcome. And this is where the darkest part of all comes in. Because that betrayal didn't just stay between them. It wasn't a private drama. It became a spectacle, a political weapon, an example of what happens when you dare to outshine Trump. And you, yes, you who are watching this. What would you do if someone you respected, someone who had publicly supported you, erased you from their life with a sentence? Would you keep quiet? Or you'd set everything on fire? Most would say he would fight, that he would respond, but Musk didn't. And that's what hurt the most, because sometimes the greatest contempt isn't insult, it's indifference. And while Trump was shouting on Twitter, Musk was silently building the future. But be careful, because this story is not over yet. The most brutal part is yet to be revealed. What do you think Musk did when he realized Trump had been using him all this time? How did you react when you realized that the game was always rigged? Leave me a theory in the comments, and if you're here, give it a like. We're going to continue unmasking the most toxic power game of recent times, because this is just beginning. And so, as the headlines roar and the social media burns, a single question remains hanging in the air. Who really betrayed whom? Because if you look at it from a distance, this isn't just a fight between two self-centered millionaires. It's a brutal reflection of what happens when power, ego, and the obsession for attention collide uncontrollably. And yes, it may seem like a modern political soap opera, but the stakes are much higher than a couple of tweets. Trump, with his eternal need to be the center of the universe, didn't hesitate to throw Musk under the bus when he felt he was no longer of use to him. He did it for strategy, for wounded pride, for pure show. Only he knows. But what we do know is that it wasn't an accident. It was a calculated hit, a reminder that in their world, loyalty only lasts as long as a Twitter like. And Musk either really lost or just decided not to play their game. Instead of coming out to give explanations, he chose silence, or worse, memes. An emoji here, a cryptic phrase there, also Musk, also perfectly designed to confuse, entertain, and divert attention. But beneath that layer of sarcasm lies something else, because while the world laughs or is outraged by his tweets, he continues to build his empire. And if Musk has proven anything, it's that even in chaos, he knows how to play the long game. Is launching rockets, making self-driving cars, and planning for a future where humans live on Mars. Do you really think he's going to lose sleep over a former president? Of course, this isn't just a matter of technology or business. It's also a political move, and it's no secret that Musk has been flirting with power for years. His rhetoric on freedom of expression, his clashes with regulators, his criticism of the media, all of this sounds less like a businessman and more like an unofficial candidate. But here comes the twist. That political dream could have collapsed in a single move, because while his recent closeness to the right had brought him closer to Trump's base, this public betrayal may have destroyed that bridge forever. And without that support, who will support him when he decides to enter the political arena? Or is Musk aiming for something bigger? A new narrative? A new audience? A new identity? If there's one thing he's proven time and time again, it's that he can reinvent himself whenever he wants. He was the genius of Silicon Valley, the savior of the planet, the digital troll, the left-wing villain, and now the political outsider. The truth is that this chapter with Trump could mark a turning point, not only in his reputation, but in his real future. Because yes, he may now have millions of followers and control of one of the most controversial platforms on the planet, but if history teaches us anything, it's that power, when it relies only on noise, crumbles silently. And meanwhile, the media does what it does best, turning all this chaos into entertainment. They're not interested in the truth. They just want the next scandal. And with Trump and Musk, the show never ends. They're like two digital gladiators, throwing out phrases instead of swords, surrounded by a bloodthirsty audience. Have you noticed how each headline is built like an emotional bomb? Trump betrays Musk. Musk responds with a meme. He loses conservative support. Everything is designed to divide us, to hook us, to keep us glued to the screen. And the awkward question is, how much of this is real and how much is just show? Perhaps that's the most disturbing part of this whole story. We no longer know where politics ends and the circus begins. That these men are not just competing for power, they are competing for attention. And in a world where clicks are worth more than convictions, that's the most dangerous currency of all. But beware, because while we all watch the scandal, real decisions are being made in the shadows, such as tariffs, international alliances, investments in artificial intelligence, and robotics, things that will change your life even if they don't appear in memes. And this is where the story gets even more twisted, because while Trump insists on building economic walls with his tariff policies, Musk is literally building machines that could replace millions of jobs. While one talks about the glorious past, the other projects a dystopian future, and we are all caught in the middle. Do you really want these two to decide your fate? Look beyond the drama, beyond the noise, because it is fun to watch them fight. It's tempting to make memes and laugh at their antics, but at the end of the day, they have real power, and if we're not careful, they'll use it to shape a world that only benefits them. So here's an awkward question for you. Are you watching this video just for entertainment, or are you willing to think about what it really means? Because it's not just about Musk or Trump, it's about the kind of future you're willing to allow, a future where billionaires can shape narratives, manipulate public opinion, and play president without ever having been elected. Or one where we demand accountability, where ideas matter more than egos, where we stop idolizing these figures and start asking ourselves what kind of world we want to build. And if you agree, leave your comment. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think Musk should get into politics? Trump is right to distance himself from him, or is this all just a smokescreen? Your opinion matters more than you think. Because if there's one thing these men fear more than bad press, it's an alert citizenry that doesn't just watch, but acts. Give it a like if you want more stories like this. Share it with someone who still believes these guys are heroes. And above all, subscribe, because we're not going to let power hide behind a screen here. See you in the next episode, because I assure you, this story is not over yet. And if you know Musk or Trump, tell them we'll be waiting here. Want to see behind the scenes of this fight? I leave you another video that reveals everything.